Well, howdy there, Bronco fans. Welcome to this season's first edition of Bronco Planet. We dropped Danny off at the curve and picked up Reggie Rivers in the house, baby. We got a new studio here at the Cave, and we are so excited, Reggie, that offseason and all that Tom Brady drama and crap and Deflategate is behind us. Well, maybe not behind us now, but we're moving on to Bronco football, by golly.
Tom Brady, overinflated ego, underinflated balls. I mean, what kind of life is this guy living?
I know, come on. And enough of the Lance Armstrong. Deny. Say you did it and move on, buddy.
Can you imagine if he had just at the beginning had said, you know what, I like the balls a little bit softer, and I told him to take some air out. I didn't realize it put us under the limit. Apologize like that, but I don't even know our equipment manager's name. Texted him 17 times. I don't even know who this kid is. Hey, how's your son?
Ridiculous, man, and it couldn't happen to a more, I don't know, but besides Philip Rivers, Tom Brady, suck it, buddy. It's time to move on, though.
It's true.
Bronco football, here we go.
Cheers.
And these red Solo cups, compliment of Bill Sports Collectibles, one of our sponsors. So anyway, we're moving along. Reggie, the reason we have Reggie Rivers, not only Danny's kind of weak, but Reggie, obviously, you've played the game.
I played the game.
Play the game. It's training time. It's training time.
You talking about training?
And he is fired up. What's in your cup? I need some of that.
Cup? Don't talk to me about cups.
So moving on, it's training camp, and we have a lot of people going to camp, a lot of young players going to camp, and what better way to sum it up than have somebody who's been there. So tell us a little bit about what these young players are going through. It's their first camp. What's it like?
It is intimidating. I remember for me, when I arrived at training camp, I was driving my sister's Volkswagen Bug. It was a convertible, so that was the cool part, but it was awfully rusty. That was the uncool part. Had a big hole in the floor in the driver's wheel well, and I had a piece of wood. On the way here to Denver from Texas, that piece of wood fell out, so I'm driving, looking at the road. Well, you pull into the lot, and Shannon Sharp's got a Mercedes, and John Elway's got a Viper, and all these guys are driving these incredible vehicles, Range Rovers, Lexuses. Well, I don't know if Lexus existed back then, but I'm walking in my little Humpty, and then you go out to practice, and it's just intimidating. You don't know if you can compete with these guys. I mean, in high school, you were one of the best players. In college, you were one of the best players. Now, you walk out here and you're suddenly surrounded by guys who are just as fast as you, can hit just as hard as you. The talent across the board is so much better. The instruction in the classroom is so much more difficult. Allegedly, all these guys were student athletes in college too, but allegedly. But now, it is really how well can you study? How well can you learn this offense? All the plays, all the formations, all the adjustments. How well can you learn that defense? And then whatever you learn in the morning, you're out on the field putting to use in the afternoon. So it is really, for the rookie players, it's overwhelming. There's so much going on that's intimidating and challenging to them. So their heads are swimming right now.
Now, what about just being around the legends themselves? Did you talk to them out of the gate? Did you just keep to yourself? How do you handle yourself out of the gate?
Well, I didn't think I was going to make the team. So I felt the way many of you feel. If you were at a restaurant and you saw John Elway.
Hey, it's John.
Yeah, you're going to recognize him. You might want to go over there because you think, I've been alive for however many years. I've never been in a room with John. And then I don't know when the next time I'm going to be in a room with John. So you have this compelling urge, I want to go get an autograph from John. Well, I felt the same way. I'm a rookie. I don't think I'm going to make this team. I'm going to be with the Broncos for 6 weeks. I better get to know Shannon Sharp. I better get to know John Elway. I better get to know Carl Mecklenburg and Dennis Smith and Steve Atwater. Try to get an autograph. Try to get a picture on the sly. If cell phones had been invented back then, I would have had pictures of everybody. And so, it is. It's an honor. It's wild and hard to believe that you're there around these guys. It's intimidating, but it's exciting too.
And what about, do they go over game rules right at the beginning? There's certain things, we want you to do this, we want you to do that, you can't do this. No, like today, it must be easier for the players today, but there's like Kubiak has talked recently about, hey, we want to keep everybody up, we want them down in the dirt, we want to avoid injuries. What about the party life, all that stuff? Do you have discussions about, hey, this is how you need to conduct yourself as a player and handle camp?
No, not when I was playing.
Really?
Back then, it was, listen, go hit somebody, and when they hit you, don't get broken. We were in full pads twice a day. We had full contact drills every practice. I mean, it's so different now. I mean, these kids are practically in a country club. I mean, you have a football practice in which you don't wear any football pads? Are you...
And the facilities. A little bit different than Greeley, huh?
Well, first of all, let me say this about Greeley. I love Greeley. Anyone ever asked me about it? I love Greeley because that's where I first made the Denver Broncos. Every year of my career, that's where I went back to make the Broncos again. Greeley has been nothing but nice to me. I love Greeley. But when I look at the facilities they're practicing in now, I think, why me?
And what about the dollars? I'm sure that's crossed your mind before. The dollars nowadays, unbelievable.
These guys are getting paid if I got paid the way they getting paid now, Shad, I would not know you. Or if I did know you, I would stop knowing you. I sign a $40, $50 million deal. You'd be like, hey, Reg! And I'd be like,
Well, luckily for us here at Bronco Planet, you're going to have to dumb it down a little bit and hang out with us common folk.
Exactly. I'm a multi-thousandaire, in case anyone was wondering.
Well, all right, moving along. Okay, so they're at camp now. You give us a little bit of behind the scenes. Do you have any favorite camp stories over the year that you would like to share with us, or not so favorite?
People ask me what the hardest hit of my career was, and ironically, it happened in my rookie training camp from one of my own teammates, Steve Atwater. I remember we were running a full-speed drill. It was the number 2 offense against the number 1 defense. Why I was in there with the number 2 offense is unknown to me, but somehow I was. And I took a handoff. I made a cut. I come through. All I saw was daylight, and the next thing I knew, all I saw was Greek in my face. I was on the sideline, and I'm like, wow, what just happened? Steve Atwater, when I saw the film, when we watched it next, Steve was coming kind of at an angle. I'm coming through this hole. All I see is daylight. He arrives out of nowhere, and it's like a forearm across my chin. I collapsed like I've been hit by a sniper, and it was the hardest hit of my career. And I remember sitting on the sideline thinking, is this what it's going to be like? I mean, can I really survive in a league where this is just practice? Well, it turned out no hit I ever took in any game was harder than that hit.
And right there, first out of the gate. Well, you know what? I would feel bad for you, but since you said you would ignore me if you're a millionaire, I'm glad Atwater laid one across your chops. I don't know what to say. 1 for ring, 0 Rivers. All right, so let's talk about the Broncos. Obviously, they've been a very good regular season team. Peyton Manning, the Von Millers, very good during the regular season, but I'm not seeing much from the new M&M connection, Manning and Miller in the playoffs. Is it just me, or what's going on?
I think, and this is controversial, what I want to see is Brock Osweiler play in September, in October. I want to see him on the field. I want to see Peyton Manning getting rested. I think that a big part of the problem is Peyton literally just runs out of gas. You get into December and you can just watch him on the field. He's just declining. You get into January, and I think it's a young man's game. It's hard. He's 39 years old. I mean, it's amazing what he can do. He's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but he's not a young man anymore. But he's an animal. He just doesn't want to come off the field. He loves to play, loves to get every rep. But I think somehow Gary Kubiak and John Elway have to talk to him quarterback to quarterback and just explain to him, listen, if you want to win the Super Bowl, we think this is what has to happen. When we get a lead in September, we're going to put Brock Osweiler in the game. We're going to rest you and save some of those reps.
Yeah, I thought Adam was a little shy, maybe just intimidated by a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, and just I think Peyton had his way. You could see times when I felt like the coaching staff and Brock wanted to come in, and he was like, no, I'm doing it. And,
right.
And maybe now you got some experience there, and we've learned from the past. And I agree with you. I mean, look at Bubby had some games back in Elway's day, and it made a big difference. So what about on the defensive side? Wade Phillips, what's your thought about bringing him in and what this defense needs to do?
You know, I like it. Wade has always been a great coach. He was my defensive coordinator, I think, 4 out of the 6 years that I played, and he was the head coach for 2 out of the 6 years that I played. And so Wade is a great coach. I like his style. He's bringing back the 3-4, which, you know, there's I don't personally have a preference, but I think whichever one is in vogue, the other one seems to be more effective because people don't see it as often. And so I think more teams are running a 4-3 these days. And so the 3-4 has some flexibility to it. We have a lot of linebacker talent. So the 3-4 lets you put more of those linebackers on the field. And so I'm excited. I think that the defense last year was very good. I think that they have a chance to be a lot better than that this year. And Von Miller, I want to see him reach his true potential because he's just got so much ability.
Now, I want to talk about, obviously Von Miller's had a huge camp already. Everybody's talking about Von. He's freakish. Looks like he went the other way than Aldon Smith, right? It looks like he's corrected himself and on the right path. But I want to see Von continue on later in the playoffs too. Because if you think back to Doomerville and him, not big games in the playoffs. Kept waiting for him to be a change maker in the Seattle game, not there. It just seems like when you need a sack most, when you need a Raheem Moore, somebody to step up to the challenge. I'm not seeing one Bronco over the last 3 years really step up when they need him to.
I agree with that. And I think part of that is on the players and part of it is on the coaches. That if you take a Von Miller, you can neutralize Von Miller. You can double team him. You can put two linemen on him. You can put a lineman and a tight end on him. You can put a lineman and a back chipping him. There are ways to neutralize Von Miller, but scheme-wise, defensively, you can move him around so much that it makes it almost impossible for the defense to neutralize him. I have felt in the past couple of years, there are plenty of times where it's like, this is the moment for Von to make a play, and they just line him up in the usual spot and let the offense do the usual thing to him to stop him. And I want to see more creativity in how they use Von and how they move him to keep the offense guessing and just create mismatches where this tight end has no shot on earth of ever blocking Von Miller, and all of a sudden this tight end is isolated with Von.
I like it. Do you ever get to go over there and see the players, watch the practices?
Yeah,
Anything like that?
Yeah, I get over there every once in a while. As an alumni, they have special alumni days when we can all come back and have our memories about how it was and talk to these young kids about how easy they've got it. Like they love to hear that.
Well, I think you need to grab Wade aside, you get your buddy Carl Mecklenburg and get him on track. Make sure that he's doing exactly what you talked about. And I want to see more aggressiveness. I was surprised that Del Rio, being a guy that came from USC, was a defensive player, was so passive last year. Right. It's like, put some pressure on someone, take some chances.
Right, I agree. And that's one of the things that Seattle has done so well. I mean, Seattle just seems like their whole defense is always moving forward. They're always filling all the gaps. They're rushing or blitzing in run situation. They're blitzing in pass situations. They're trusting their defensive backs to say, listen, you guys are on your own. We're gonna come and put some pressure on. And I think that's why they've been the best defense or one of the best defenses the past few years. And I agree with you. I love, even if it burns you sometimes, I still prefer to see them play with an aggressive style because I think that's how you create your opportunities.
Yeah, with Talib, Chris Harris playing lights out, Roby playing the way he did, why not take those chances?
Right.
Put those guys on an island and see what happens.
I love the new running scheme. I think zone blocking it was in vogue and the Broncos mastered it back in the 90s, and it's a great way to hide the defects of young offensive linemen because basically what happens on those zone blocking plays, the ball gets snapped and the entire offense takes off running to the right. I mean, they're running full speed and the defense is so shocked by the speed of this entire movement. Now the defense is running to get out in front of them, and that's how you create these cutback lanes because you just get the defense flowing so fast. So I think zone blocking, especially when you have some younger players on your offensive line, is a lot easier to mask their deficiencies and to give them some support than if you're in a man blocking scheme and they really have, it's tackle you and the guard, have this defensive tackle up to the linebacker, and that's who you've got. Well, one of you doesn't get off the block and the linebacker makes a tackle.
Well, I think it's going to be good. Do you think does it help C.J. Anderson? Does it better help Ronnie Hillman? Will it help Monte Ball? Are any of those running backs in your mind better suited for that type of offense, or is it really everybody?
I think they're all pretty well suited for it. It's just a question of discipline, and really during the 90s we saw Terrell Davis master that discipline, the one-cut discipline where the whole offense is moving this way. And you, as a back, you've got to be moving that way with the same speed, and you're just waiting for that crack to develop in the back end because somewhere and all of this speed, you're going to get the crack, and it's the one cut and cut back into that lane. And so I think C.J. Anderson for sure can do that. Monte Ball for sure. Ronnie Hillman, I think for sure. What I saw of him at San Diego State, I think he has all that capability. It's just the discipline to look for that one cut, make the one cut, and then accelerate through the hole. It's not a two-cut offense. It's not a dip and dive offense. It's not a bounce outside offense. It is one cut and downhill. And so if they can master the discipline of that, they'll be very effective.
Can you tell us a little bit about Kubiak? Have you had any run-ins with him? What do you think of him as a coach, as a player, just as a human being?
Yeah, well, I love Kubiak. I'm a huge fan of his. His last year in the NFL was my first year in the NFL, so we played together. And even back then, he was a coach, right? He was a coach on the field. He would, John Elway would call a play, and he would be like, all right, red, right, trip, flat up, expose, Z-White, lace, white, switch, on one, ready, break. And Kubiak would call the play, and it'd be more like, all right, we're going to go red, right, trips, fly up, X post, Z waggle, H and Y switch on one. Ready, guys? All right, be ready for me on that switch. Make sure you get good speed on that. He's walking the line, and he's like coaching everybody coming out of the huddle. It was always comforting to be on the field with Kubiak. And so I think that has continued throughout his coaching career. I think he's a really brilliant football mind, a great offensive strategist. I think he's a great leader. He has a lot of credibility with the players, and I think that he's going to be great. I'm excited that he's back.
Well, that sounds great. It's good. Should be a big year. Any predictions? What are you thinking?
My prediction's almost always the same, 19-0.
Let's go for it. All right, well, if we go 19-0, you got to promise you'll come back to the cave, and we'll pick one of the great things we have here. We can pick out ping pong, pool, darts, you name Galaga. You pick the game, you and I go. If we go undefeated, you come back, we go one-on-one.
On one condition.
Yes, sir.
Two conditions. One, I don't win the lottery, in which case I would not speak to you ever again in my life. Two, I don't get some huge contract from some entity, in which case I also will not speak to you for the rest of my life. But if neither of those things happen, yes, I will be back.
Well, I appreciate that. Great. So we're going to hope that Reggie has a terrible luck at the lottery and gets no contract. So thanks for coming by. You've been a friend of our shows for the last 4 years. You do amazing things in the community, especially like what you're doing with the alumni and, first class all the way, Reggie. I appreciate you coming by.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you, Shad.
All right. See y'all.
Go Broncos!
Woo!